Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much, Sean, and a very big welcome to all of our attendees this morning. We really appreciate that you've taken the time out to ensure we get the best out of these Toolbox talks. So what we're going to go do is straight into the Toolbox talk this morning. I know that yesterday or last week, sorry, we did have quite a few questions arising out of the emails. So we are going to be replying to them throughout this week. We've just done a bit of research on some of the questions that were asked. For those of you who are not too sure yet, there is a WhatsApp number that you can WhatsApp while you are on site to ask any questions or maybe share some information with us while you are on your site. So please look out at the end of this webinar or this Toolbox talk for that number. So this morning we are talking about road hazards. Now, in the past, we've spoken about road hazards as the actual vehicle itself. We've spoken about the driver. We've even spoken about road rage and how dangerous that is. But let us look at another few conditions that can create hazards for some of us on the road. Things like hydroplaning or skidding out of control. Especially with the amount of rain that we are having lately, this creates a huge hazard for a lot of us driving to and from work every day. Whether you're driving to an office, whether you're driving to a construction site, this type of hazard is extremely dangerous, especially if we do not know how to handle it. The second one is a tire blowout. Now, we've looked up the causes of what creates the conditions for a blowout on a tire, and then we've looked at how we can prevent this from happening. And we're going to just look at a few things on why it occurs and how you can stop it from becoming a hazard or potentially an accident on the road. What about fog? A lot of us are traveling through to different areas, different provinces, maybe from Gauteng and surrounds. Those of you down in Durban, you also get a lot of fog coming up to the winter time. Cape Town, I'm not too sure. Do you get it? I know there's a stretch of road on the M2, I think it is. Sometimes very early in the morning, you do get that fog or mist buildup. And these conditions create more hazards for us, especially if there are a lot of us using that road, and specifically the type of driving that we are doing. If it's long distance, if we are speeding, perhaps if we are distracted using cell phones, these can all create additional hazards and make it a higher risk. Then we look at things like cyclists, animals running across the road, pedestrians, roadworks, potholes, glares, and you often get this blinding glare from the early morning sun, depending on which direction you are traveling in. Now, all of these create situations where there is a potential for high risk. There is a potential to cause incidents and accidents. These hazards always exist. They are always there, which means the rate at which incidents and accidents can occur is a lot higher, especially if we are not alert or staying focused on the road. Now, there are few times where we can avoid certain situations. For instance, when there is roadworks, we can take an alternative route. If we know that in certain areas it is raining excessively, we could maybe adjust our hours and leave a little bit earlier to work or leave a little bit later, depending on how flexible your schedule is. But the majority of the time, while we are driving on these roads, these hazards are sometimes permanently there and also unseen. In other words, we often don't know what is coming up around the next bend. So it's of interest to us to really understand what we can do to protect ourselves while driving to and from work, especially if we are taking employees in the back of our bakkie, in the back of our vehicles, or if we are traveling with public transport. These can all be very difficult and dangerous situations. But we wanted to just discuss three things. And it's out of the list that we've mentioned in the beginning. Number one is hydroplaning, then we'll look at tire blowout, and then we'll look at fog. Now we're going to explain why it happens, and then how can you prevent it from occurring or prevent yourself from being exposed to this type of risk. Now, hydroplaning or skiing on the water with your tires occurs when your tire of the vehicle encounters more water than it can actually scatter. Now, the tread of the tire is designed in order to spread the water around the surface of the tire and to basically scatter it in all directions in order to keep the distance between the tire and the road as small as possible. However, when it is raining, especially when it's raining quite a bit, and if the rain is getting stuck onto the roads because of blockages in the piping, this causes more water pressure in the front of the wheel. And what it does is it pushes under the tire, and then the tire is lifted or separated from the road surface by a very thin film of water. Now, what this does is it loses the traction of the entire vehicle, and this will result in loss of steering, loss of braking, as well as loss of power. And oftentimes what people do in this situation is they press on the brakes, and this causes them to spin out of control because you do not have control of the vehicle. You obviously go into a bit of panic mode, and oftentimes you feel so helpless because there is not much you can do except allow the car to keep moving in the direction that it is going and hopefully get traction. But what do you need to do to prevent this from becoming an accident while driving on the roads? Well, the first and most important thing is to adjust your driving in adverse conditions. In other words, you need to recognize the danger in front of you, what could take place, and adjust your driving before the accident happens. So if the road conditions are less than ideal, rather slow down. You should never try and turn suddenly, especially in wet conditions, as this may cause you to lose control very quickly of the vehicle and it could turn into aquaplaning. You also need to maintain your tires, as this will reduce the chances of hydroplaning. So if your tires are not in a good condition, you do not adjust your driving technique and you drive, even if it's the speed limit, 100 or 120, it could be too fast in that type of condition. So the law is the actual 60, 80, 100 or 120. However, principle dictates that when situations are less than ideal on the road, we need to adjust the way we drive. And this could mean the difference between an incident or an accident on the road or getting to work safely. Now, what about tire blowouts? And we're going to stick to tires and how tires can really affect the dangerous conditions on the roads and even make it worse when we are driving with less than ideal tires. So hydroplaning would be one of them, although the fact of the matter is the way we drive is really going to assist us in getting out of that situation. But when it comes to blowouts of tires, they are usually the result of overloading a vehicle. Now, maybe a lot of you will agree with me here. Driving on the roads, no matter where you are going to come across a car that has been fully overloaded, way too overloaded. And yet, not much is done in the way of law enforcement. But what are you going to do? Are you going to take advantage of that and say, well, I will not be pulled over? Or are you going to take the opportunity to be safe on the road and not overload the vehicle that you are in? Another thing that creates a blowout or creates the conditions of a blowout is impact damage. And this could be due to hitting potholes, hitting pavements, or every now and then maybe hitting something. Depending on the severity of the impact, this could create the conditions for a tire to expand and blow out while driving on the road. Any cuts or rapid air loss will also create the conditions for a blowout. And this is a very interesting one one that I did not know until I actually did research on why tires blow out, is an unnoticed small puncture that allows the tire to slowly lose air over time until the tire itself fails. Now, this was interesting to me because normally a slow puncture, I didn't really view it as very dangerous, as it could just be repaired. I would never replace the entire tire depending on where that puncture was. But realizing that it is unnoticed and it slowly allows the air to lose, and you can actually see the bottom picture here where the tire profile has such low pressure, you start getting excessive wear on the outside of the tires, and this creates that very thin or very small edging on the outside of the tire that could lead to a blowout. So how do we stop this from happening? Well, one of the things I've started doing is just regularly checking my tire pressure every time I fill up. And because we do so much mileage nowadays and fuel is so expensive, you are at petrol stations a lot more often. And yet we don't often check our tires. And this could be we rushed, we don't have the time to do it, or perhaps we don't get out the car and do it ourselves while the petrol is being put in for us. Why not take the initiative though? Check your tires as often as possible because they are creating the conditions for a tire blowout. So how can you prevent this from occurring? Well, again, you need to focus on controlling your vehicle and getting safely to the side of the road to assess the situation should a blowout occur. But before a blowout occurs, how can you stop it so that you do not have one? Well, be careful of debris on the road. Try and see as far in front as possible for any road debris. Again, slow down. If you see any changes in the lane, safely move away from all of that debris. And again, maintain your tires properly, as weak tires are more likely to blow out. Again, it all depends on us. What we do will affect the outcome of these hazards that are permanently existing on our roads. And yes, there's not a lot we can do about the potholes on the road. There's not a lot about the debris on the road that we have to constantly dodge while driving everywhere. But what we can do is control our vehicle by focusing on how we drive, slowing down when we need to, and ensuring that the safety of our drive does not affect those around us. So is this something all of us can do? Well, no doubt. As IOPSA members, you remember that you have the Tiger Will and Tire opportunity, and we will show you a slide of that very soon, how you can maintain your tires at a discounted rate from them as well. So IOPSA is always trying to do the best for its IOPSA members, all you plumbers out there. Should you have these conditions where your tires are not in good condition, why not go and see if you can get them sorted out? But what about the last danger that we want to discuss today is fog, and it's going to be coming up very soon. It's still quite warm at the moment, especially where we stay, but we have noticed as we're driving out down to Durban or even out to eMahleleni, we've noticed fog starting on the road, especially 5-6 o'clock in the morning. Now, fog happens when the warmer air interacts with the colder air. The cold air then can hold less water vapor than the warm air. So the water vapor condenses into a liquid, and this turns into a form of fog. Now, this fog creates a barrier almost in front of us where it's difficult to see in front of you while you are driving. The big problem is it is very, very difficult for you to see other vehicles and other vehicles to see you. So how can you go about driving in this hazard? Again, we can't take that hazard away straight away. You still have to drive maybe at that time of the day, so we can't remove the fog. What can you do and how can you drive in order to ensure that you are safe? Well, again, when you are confronted with these conditions while driving, we advise that you follow the following safety measures. Again, reduce your speed. So you can start seeing a pattern here. Driving fast will create additional risks and hazards. Reducing your speed almost in every single hazard gives you more of a chance to prevent it from occurring. Then turn on your headlights. In fact, we're encouraged to use our headlights at all times during the day so that people can see us while they are driving. But very importantly, please do not use your high beams, in other words, your brights, while driving during fog, because this will create even more of a barrier between yourself and the road ahead of you. The light reflects on the water particles that are actually inside the fog, and it creates almost like a blinding glare in front of you. So do not use your high beams. A lot of cars now come out with fog lights. Please use your fog lights, and on the same light switch there is often a little button, or you can click the light switch out or push it in depending on how it works, and there is a little red light that comes on at the back of your vehicle, and that light there is also to help others on the road to see that there is somebody in front of them. So 4 suggestions on driving in fog: never drive on high beams. In case of zero visibility, try and follow the painted markings on the central verge or on the left-hand side. Be patient, especially during these times. Never overtake vehicles. And this is because you cannot see far enough ahead to notice if you have the time to go and actually safely overtake the person in front of you. And then also indicate well enough in time. So whether you're turning left or right, your indicator should be given 10 seconds before you take any turn. I wish this could become a normal situation while driving on the roads, as it is an indicator of what you are going to do and not a suggestion. So indicate well enough in time. This will allow any person that might be seeing you from behind or in front that there is a possibility for a car turning either in front of them or away from them, and they can reduce their speed and potentially stop incidents and accidents from happening. Now, again, as we discussed, these are all perfect scenarios. We do describe perfect areas of health and safety, and we know that is not always possible, but if each one of us keep doing our part, we can make it safer for everyone. So let's keep trying, and if you need any help or any more suggestions, please reach out to us, or if you have suggestions, we ask you to also reach out to us so that we can give these to those who listen in all the time. As we mentioned, IOPSA members do get preferential discount rates at Tiger Wheel and Tire, as well as Tires and More. And this can be up to 40% off on some tire brands, 20% off some batteries, 50% off shocks. And there are over 117 Tiger Wheel and Tire area shops all over South Africa, as well as 35 Tires and More. So if you find them, you've got your IOPSA number, why not pop in and maybe just go and get a safety check done on your vehicle to ensure that it is still safe for you to drive, especially because of the amount of hazards that we have on our roads. Now, not forgetting, as well as for you IOPSA members, is the FEM IOPSA initiative for the following 2 courses to be done during the year of 2020. Now, we have changed up the courses. We are going to be looking at SHE-REP. This will help your employees in the company to understand liabilities in terms of the OSH Act, what are the duties between an employer and an employee, and then it also touches on what are the duties of a SHE representative, someone who represents the employees in terms of health and safety according to section 17 and 18 of the OSH Act. And then we've introduced firefighting as well, which is what we did last year. Firefighting is extremely important because of the hot works that we are doing on site. So again, during the year of 2020, starting in Gauteng with March, any IOPSA member may send 2 employees free of charge for each of these courses. If you want to know more, just mail us safety@iopsa.org or chris@ohss.co.za. Go to your membership login. You can also download the application from there, but you will still need to email it to ourselves, safety@iopsa or chris@ohss. There's your 2 WhatsApp numbers if you need some more help. 067-173-3461, and then my personal cell phone number 071-875-2070. I'm not always available on the line when you want to call, but if you send me a WhatsApp, I will definitely get back to you, as well as those who have sent through emails. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate everything that you have given to us from your side. All of the members from SIOSH, from PRB, as well as IOPSA, we thank all of you out in the industry for what you are doing. And we also want to say thank you very much for joining our Tuesday morning Toolbox Talks. Next month, we are looking at the next Toolbox Talks that are coming up for the month of February. That is risk analysis. Why are we doing risk analysis? We are going to be taking a look at high pressure cleaning. A lot of you plumbers out there were questioning what are the dangers with high pressure cleaning and the machines that we are using to do it. And then someone wanted us to do a simple safety program. What do you need in order to have safety simplified? So we're doing our best to make sure that we can try and get that done for you. And we've also got a nice little handout, a little booklet that we are going to send out for all of you who would like to know simple safety, or what it is you need to do in order to keep your company running safely. And then we are also looking again at the plumbers, some of the questions coming through about unblocking pipes and some of the dangers when we are looking at this type of situation. And we'll look at environmental dangers as well. So once again, thank you very much. Do not forget to get your CPD points from whichever institute you are with. And we want to say a very big thank you to you, Sean, and then hand it over back to you. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much, Chris. I have got no questions for you this morning, so I am going to go ahead and end the session off now. Thanks so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thanks so much to SIOSH and to the PRB for accrediting these sessions with CPD points. I am going to go ahead and end the session off now, guys. Please do remember the survey on the way out and enjoy the rest of your week, guys. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.